Hello, ladies and gentle turds.
Gentle Teds.
Yes, it is I, Abby.
And it is I, Josh.
All right, Josh. So what are we talking about today?
Abby, I will answer that question. We are talking about fear today.
Fear of what?
Of fear.
Fear of fear?
The concept of fearing fear itself.
Being scared of fear.
Of the unknown.
Okay.
Which brings fear. And how we as individuals decipher said fear kind of shows the result of that fear and how intense it can be. We're going to talk about tension and how that tension can be too much, can be creative or be destructive. You're going to constantly have tension, and we're going to wrap it all around, talk about the cliche, not to run from your fears, but to face them. And these fears
Awesome.
could be anything. It could be something you don't even know. It could be obviously something you could put your finger on, but at least I know that there are times where I feel fear and I don't even know what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
I call it the fear of the unknown. And it's just kind of like I have anxious. What's that meme?
So it's like you wake up in the morning and you think to yourself, what a great morning.
What a great morning.
And you just hear this voice in your head. It's like, well, shouldn't we be scared of something? It's like, scared of what? I don't know. Shouldn't there be something that we should be scared of? Like,
You're right.
yeah. That's just your anxiety.
But it's natural.
It is.
And so we're going to get all of the resources from other than Mr. Alan Watts from a fantastic book, The Meaning of Happiness. It's an absolute must-read. I'm in the beginning of it, and I absolutely love it. And he talks a lot about that tension, about that fear. And I'll start with this.
Okay.
Man's difficulty is that his fear is seldom original. It is once or many times removed from originality, being not just simple fear, but the fear of being afraid. Seldom original. So what I take out of that is it's kind of like a base fear. And it is once or many times removed from originality. So, I mean, you can call that what it is. I mean, it's removed from its originality, going in and out. And so how you're deciphering it, how much you're feeding that fear, or how much you're starving that fear, running from or facing. That's kind of what I get out of it. Right?
Well, that's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's some things that I got out of it. And we read this whole chapter. It was fantastic.
So many times.
So if you're scared, you tend to run and hide from your fear.
Mm-hmm.
What good will running away from your fear do? It won't do any good.
No good.
You stay hidden from this war within yourself with no intention of fighting the battle.
And what's that battle?
It's a battle of facing your fear.
Yeah. And
you don't want to face it, so you run from it.
And so when that fear kind of progresses, it's kind of like a war within your brain. I mean, you ever get that way sometimes? You're just like, I literally feel like I'm at war with myself.
Yeah, the voice inside your head, or
Whatever.
Whatever it
Whatever's
is.
telling you to be afraid. And there's no winner of that war. You're just self-destructing. And I am really good at doing that.
yeah. I think
I think
we're
a
all
lot
pretty
of
talented in that area.
I think a lot. I like that. Yeah. I think a lot of us really are.
Yeah.
But it's a real deal.
So this is original fear. It's not a simple fear.
It's a baseline fear.
Yeah. Simple fear is necessary. But what is unnecessary is being scared of that simple fear.
Or running from that fear, or letting it consume you.
Right.
And it takes away from happiness. To accept fear would be like accepting death, so he runs from it, and this is the great unhappiness. I'll start from the beginning, actually. It says, if we run from our fear, it becomes panic, and this is the entrance to a bottomless abyss of self-deception and misery. Man is not like to admit to himself that he is afraid, for his weakness is self-esteem and shakes his faith in the security of his ego. To accept fear would be like accepting death, so he runs from it, and this is the great unhappiness. So you feel unhappiness through that fear when you run from it, because it becomes panic. You're just trying to get away, and you can't get away.
It's just going to follow you.
It's like running with a headache. The headache's not going to...
It'll kind of make it worse,
Yeah,
right?
You're not going to be able to run away from a headache. And so he says the term, the great unhappiness. And people fall to that unhappiness when they run from fear itself, that original fear.
All right. So fear is the tension caused by his original fear, so that his fear increases, growing all the more frightening until it becomes destructive instead of creative.
So there is destructive tension and there's creative tension.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like a guitar string. You're going to tighten that string and give it just enough tension for it to create a beautiful tune.
Perfect amount.
Now you give it too much tension, it'll break. You don't give it enough tension, it won't make a noise.
Or they just make sharp and flat noises, and you don't want that. You want it to have that sweet spot, right?
Right. So think of it in your own life to find that sweet spot of tension. Obviously, you're going to have tension. That's part of life. That's how you grow. That's how change occurs. That's how you change.
Mm-hmm.
And so fear is going to be a part of that, just like love. And you're going to fear just like you're going to love, because that's what those are. They're emotions. It's part of you. It's a natural phenomena.
Like it's possible to love too much.
It's possible to fear too much.
Mm-hmm.
What's the quote? Cowards die 1,000 deaths, but the valiant die but once. You're too afraid. It's like you're dying every day. You're afraid of everything. The valiant, those are face their fears. And this could
Not
be
afraid of death.
exactly, and this could be everything. You're going to stray from that great unhappiness if you learn to face fear. Think of it in terms that maybe you have to have a conversation with someone you don't want to have, but you know you're going to have that conversation.
It's better to just do it and get out of the way instead of thinking about it, because then you go through all these scenarios and all this stuff and it drives you nuts, but odds are none of those scenarios are actually going to happen.
You feed that fear and it consumes you.
Mm-hmm. It's all you can think about.
And
keeps you from enjoying life.
Exactly. And so why be afraid of something that is going... It exists either way. Folks, I cannot stress this enough. The human subconscious is so much more powerful than we give it credit for. You have so much more control over you than anybody else does or any outside force. So if you fear is an outside force, are you going to run from it? Or are you going to face it face to face, toe to toe, and kick its ass?
Eventually it's going to catch up to you anyway. When you rather just get it out of the way.
And we're talking general fear. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but fear.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of fear. I mean, you're going to be afraid of fear. That's natural, but don't let it take you. Don't run from it. Where does this start? Okay, here we go. Nothing that is isolated can live, since the two most important characteristics of life are circulation and change. On the other hand, the troubles which he tries to avoid are the only things which make him aware of his blessings. And if he would love the latter, he must fear the former. But if he is afraid of fear, these two things make him respectively frustrated and worried, driving him more and more into attitude of isolation, of separateness from the hostility towards the rest of life, standing huddled and miserable between the devil of circumstance and the deep sea of his own unpredictable and untruly emotions. And this isolation is a spirit, as his spirit perishes. So he talked about, I just lost it. He talked about isolation. You run from fear, you're running towards isolation, because when you become afraid of more and more things, you let it consume you, you are going to isolate yourself, and nothing can really live fully isolated. And then you get stuck in that ever-encompassing war within yourself. And there's no winner.
Right.
There's no winner of this. It's going to take you. And you have the control to allow this to stop. You might not think you do, but you do.
You do. Like, your mind is pretty awesome. If you really want to nip it at the bud, like, you have the power to do that. You're the only one that can.
And this kind of coincides with a lot. We talked about change in the past. We talked about experience in the past. We talked about reality. These things you can and cannot control, right? Fear is just another one of those. You are all badasses. And I know this because you get up every single day and you live your life. You face your fears.
It's scary. People with anxiety, like that's hard.
You're choosing to get up every morning, and that alone is enough proof of how amazing your consciousness is and how strong you are as a person. Mm-hmm. If you are in a situation where you are afraid, doesn't matter what you are afraid of, know you are not alone, and do not run from it.
Do not run from it.
Allow that tension to be necessary, but don't give too much or too little, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you feel fear, the worst thing that you can do is run from it. Mm-hmm. And by run from it, I mean think about it.
Feed into it.
Feed it, yeah.
Avoid it.
Absolutely. The more you will entangle yourself in this web of fear, and the harder it is to escape.
So think of it as a fly being stuck in a web. The more it struggles, the more it's going to get stuck in that web. The more you feed that fear, the more you're going to be afraid.
Absolutely.
And who gave fear the authority to affect you? Nothing. Who gives you the authority to fight it back? You. And you're stronger than that nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how can we find a good balance between with love and fear?
The best answer I can give, Abby, is our bodies. Your body's constantly talking to you. Your gut, you know? And if you feel like you're in a situation where fear is literally encompassing your everyday lifestyle, you're fearing it too much. Same thing with love. That love is encompassing you and overcoming you, and you lack control because of it. Mm-hmm. I think that's too much of the one or the other. Because fear and love are opposites. And anxiety stems from the idea of one side of the opposites taking over the other. And so it's finding that balance between the two. Yeah. And it's different for every person. So I can't give you specific instructions as to say that I have the balance, which I don't. But I'm getting there.
Yeah. So a good way that I try to find the balance is, in a previous video we talked about grounding. You sit there, because a lot of time whenever you're fearing fear, you're just in your head. Mm-hmm. And it's just going and going and going. Mm-hmm. And so you just sit there and you take a deep breath, take a couple deep breaths.
Ground yourself.
And ground yourself. Focus on things that are around you instead of what you're thinking about. That's helped me a lot, because I've definitely been going through it. I've been in my head a lot lately, and I have to constantly remind myself, like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's see where we're at. We don't need to worry about that stuff right now. Nothing that's not going to help anything. And so hopefully that helps.
Fear's there. Mm-hmm. It's not going anywhere.
No.
So don't run from it. No matter what it is. And know that you're not alone.
No.
Everyone's going through this, guys. Fear sucks, but it's necessary.
It is necessary. To an extent.
To an extent. You can turn it into a motivator.
Yeah. Help you get stuff done.
Help
you do what you want to do.
Yeah, so that fear is going to be there. So use it as a motivator. Mm-hmm. I fear mainly not succeeding, failure. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But I've turned it into a motivator. It's to the point where I'm so afraid of failure that I know I'm not going to fail.
Because you won't let yourself.
There's no way I'm going to let myself. There's just no way.
Right.
Use it as a motivator, if anything. Use love as a motivator. Just don't let either of the two consume you.
Right.
That's the point.
Find the sweet spot.
Find the sweet spot. That's all I got. You have anything else?
No, I think that was pretty awesome.
Awesome. If you all have anything you want us to talk about,
please let us know.
Shoot us anything in the comments. If you like this, love it. Share it.
Smack that like button.
Smack that like button. Smack that subscribe button.
Oh, yes.
Show your friends. If you love this, we love it. We love you. And have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching.
Love you guys.
Fist bump me.